Imagine waking up one morning with no phone, no electricity, no running water, no laws, no written language, no cities. Yes, there was the world just 6,000 years ago, and then almost not on different continents, along different rivers, something extraordinary happened. Human beings decided to stop wandering. They stayed, they farmed, they organized, they built. And the valleys of the Nile, the Tigris, the Euphrates, the Aegean, the Tiber, and the Yellow River, five of the greatest civilizations in human history came to life. They gave us writing, mathematics, democracy, law, architecture, philosophy, medicine, and the very idea of civilization itself. In the next 20 minutes, we are going to travel back 5,000 years. We are going to walk through the streets of ancient cities, hear the debates of philosophers, witness the rise and fall of empires, and understand exactly how these ancient people shaped the world you are living in right now. This is the rise of the ancient world. Ancient Egypt. Let's begin where civilization arguably began, along the banks of the Nile River in northeastern Africa. This year is around 3100 BCE, and a man named Narmer, sometimes called Menes, has just done something no one had done before. He unified two separate kingdoms into one. Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt became a single nation. Ancient Egypt was born. For the next 3000 years, 3000, this civilization will endure, evolve, and amaze. To put that in perspective, more time separates us from the fall of Rome that separates Cleopatra from the builders of the Great Pyramid. Egypt was ancient even to the ancients. At the heart of everything was the Nile. Every summer the river flooded, leaving behind rich black soil on its banks. This made farming not just possible, but extraordinarily productive. In a desert landscape, the Nile was life itself. The Egyptians called their land Kemet, the Black Land, named after its fertile soil. And ruling over all of it was the Pharaoh, not just a king, but a god on earth. The word Pharaoh comes from Pera, meaning great house. The Pharaoh was believed to be the son of Ra, the sun god, and was responsible not just for the kingdom but for the very rising of the sun each morning. This divine authority meant Egypt could mobilize resources on a scale no other civilization had attempted. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built around 2560 BCE for Pharaoh Khufu, used an estimated 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing on around 2.5 tons. It was the tallest man-made structure on Earth for 3,800 years. And here's the jaw-dropping part. They built it with no cranes, no steel tools, and no wheels on the construction site. Ancient Greece, the birthplaces of ideas. Part 1. The city-states. By 800 BC, on the rocky, sun-drenched peninsula of Greece and its surrounding islands, something different was happening. Not one empire, not one pharaoh, but dozens of independent city-states, each with its own government, culture, and identity. Athens, Sparta, Corinth, Thebes, Argos. These city-states were rivals, sometimes allies, sometimes at war with each other, and out of that combination, an extraordinary burst of human creativity was born. Sparta was a military powerhouse, disciplined, brutal, legendary. Boys as young as 7 were taken from their families and trained for war. Spartan women were expected to be physically strong and fiercely independent. Come back with your shield or on it, mothers reportedly told their sons. Athens was the opposite, a city of debate, philosophy, art, and science. And in 508 BCE, an Athenian reformer named Cleisthenes did something that would echo through every government that followed. He gave power to the people. He invented democracy. Part 2. The birth of democracy. The word Democracy comes from the Greek demos, meaning people, and kratos, meaning power, people power, and Athens, male citizens, and it was limited to male citizens. That's important to acknowledge. Could vote on laws, elect leaders, and participate directly in government. The Agora, the central marketplace, become the world's first public debate forum. Ideas were argued out loud in public where anyone could listen and respond. This was radical. In Egypt, the pharaoh was the god, but in Athens, ordinary people could challenge, debate, and change the laws that governed them. The idea spread imperfectly, slowly, with many setbacks, but it never died. Every democracy that exists today, from the United States to India to France to Pakistan, traces its roots directly back to the Athenian experiment. Party the philosophers. But democracy was only one of Athens' contributions. The other was philosophy. Around 470 BCE, a stone mason's son named Socrates began walking the streets of Athens asking questions, not answering them, asking them. Why is it just? What is beauty? What makes a life worth living? His method, relentless, uncomfortable questioning, become known as the Socratic method, and it is still the foundation of how we teach critical thinking today. His student Plato wrote down everything he remembered about Socrates' conversation and then added his own ideas about ideal government, the nature of reality, the immortality of the soul. Plato's student Aristotle went further still. He tried to categorize all of human knowledge: biology, physics, logic, ethics, politics, poetry. He essentially invented the scientific method of observation and classification, and then there were the scientists Pythagoras and his theorem, Euclid who formalized geometry, Archimedes who discovered principles of buoyancy and leverage, reportedly shouting Eureka when he understood the physics of displacement while sitting in a bathtub. Hippocrates, who founded medicine as a rational science, separate from religion. The Hippocratic oath that doctors still take bears his name. Part 4, Alexander the Great. Everyone knows who Alexander the Great is, and then just as Athens was his culture peak, a young king from Macedonia to the north changed everything. Alexander the Great was barely 20 years old when he began his contest. By 32, he had built the largest empire the world had ever seen, stretching from Greece to Egypt to Persia to the borders of India. He never lost a single battle, but Alexander did something more important than conquer. Wherever he went, he brought Greek law, language, art, philosophy, and science, and he observed local cultures in return. This fusion, called Hellenism, spread Greek ideas across culture in return. This fusion, the Library of Alexandria in Egypt, became the greatest repository of knowledge in the ancient world. For the first time, the ideas of Greece were available to everyone. When Alexander died at 32, possibly poisoned, possibly of disease, his generals divided the empire. Greece itself would eventually be absorbed by Rome, but the ideas Greece produced, Rome didn't destroy them, Rome inherited them. Ancient Rome, the empire that shaped the West. Part 1, From City to Republic. According to Rome legend, the city was founded in 753 BCE by twin brothers Romulus and Remus, raised by a wolf. Yes, a wolf. Historians are skeptical about the wolf, but the city very real. Rome began as a small settlement on 7 hills along the Tiber River in central Italy. For its first few centuries, it was just one of many Italian city-states, ruled first by kings and then, after a revolt in 509 BCE, by a republic. The Roman Republic was a remarkable political system. Power was divided between elected officials. Two consuls shared executive power, each able to veto the other. A senate of aristocrats advised them, and assemblies of citizens could vote on laws. It was not democracy as Athens. Athens understood it. Rome was far from hierarchical, but it was the most sophisticated system of balanced government and the ancient world had produced. And from the base, Rome began to expand. Part 2. The Roman War Machine. What made Rome was unstoppable was not just its armies, it was what it did after winning. Rome did not simply conquer and plunder, it built roads, cities, law courts. It incorporated conquered peoples into Roman city. The conquered the conquered could become Roman citizens. Their gods could be added to the Roman pantheon. Their language influenced Latin. This was the genius of Rome's expansion. It turned enemies into Romans. The Roman legion was the finest military force the ancient world had seen. Disciplined, adaptive, and brilliantly engineered, soldiers could march 20 miles a day, build a fort field camp every night, and fight in a formation, the testudo fortress, that made them nearly impenetrable. At its peak, Rome maintained an army of over 40 or 400,000 soldiers across the empire. By the 1st century BCE, Rome controlled not just Italy, but North Africa, Spain, Greece, the Middle East, and was pushing into Gaul, modern France. The Republic was straining under the weight of its own success. Part 3. Julius Caesar and the Empire. Out into this tension stepped Gaius Julius Caesar, general, politician, writer, one of the most magnetic figures in all of history. Caesar conquered Gaul in a brutal 8-year campaign, bringing Rome to the English Channel. He crossed the Rubicon, the river that legally divided Italy from the provinces, with his army, an act of treason that started a civil war. He won. He made himself dictator, and in 44 BCE, on the ideas of March, his senators stabbed him 23 times on the floor of the Senate. His death did not save the republic. His adopted son, Octavian, later known as Augustus, defeated his rivals and became Rome's first emperor in 27 BCE. The republic was over, the empire had begun. Under Augustus and his successor, Rome entered its golden age, the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. Lasted 2 centuries. For 200 years, the Mediterranean world was largely at peace, connected by 80,000 kilometers of roads, clean water delivered by aqueducts, and a single legal system from Britain to Babylon. Part 4. The Legacy of Rome. Rome's greatest legacy is not its armies or its buildings, it's its ideas. Roman law established principles that still govern courtrooms today. The presumption of innocence, the rights to face your accuser, the separation of civil and criminal cases, written law accessible to all citizens, the legal system of France, Spain, Italy, Portugal, and Latin America, covering over a billion people, are built directly on a Roman legal foundation. The Roman languages, French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian, are all descended from Latin, the language of Rome. The Catholic Church conducted its services in Latin for 1500 years. The very world calendar comes from the calends, the Roman word for the first day of the month. And then there is architecture, the arc, the dome, concrete. Rome's engineering innovations allowed buildings on a scale Greece could never achieve. The Pantheon, built in 125 CE, has a concrete dome that still stands today. Nearly 2000 years later, without a single crack, the Colosseum held 50,000 spectators. Romans aqueducts delivered 1 million cubic meters of fresh water to Rome every day. Rome eventually fell, or more accurately, transformed. Weakened by internal conflict, economic pressure, and wave after wave of invasion from Germanic tribes, the Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 CE, but the eastern half, the Byzantine Empire, based in Constantinople, survived for another 1,000 years, and the ideas they never fail. They become the foundation of Western civilization.